Nintendo announced a week ago that they are in the works of a live-action The Legend of Zelda movie, and I am excited and concerned, so join me as I like to talk about my concerns and my hopes for the Zelda movie, as well as some other neat little questions that I have considering the Zelda movie. How will the entire idea of a live-action Zelda movie work out, and what am I a bit cautious about thinking about that concept? I'd like to talk about this and just a bit more because that's already a lot to talk about, so join me, sit down, grab a beverage, grab a snack, and without further ado, let's get started. How's it going, everybody? I'm Gab the KiRBiZoiD, and welcome to a little discussion video about The Legend of Zelda Movie. So yeah, like I said, on the 7th of November, apparently Miyamoto just took the Nintendo Twitter rep's phone and was just like, this is Miyamoto, and I'm gonna talk about the Zelda movie. So real fast before we start, just for those who don't know the entire idea of the Zelda movie, maybe you've been living under a rock or, probably just haven't seen the tweet, I'm gonna read out the tweet to you and I'm gonna show it on screen right now. And yeah, just join me and we're gonna do a little bit of story time. This is Miyamoto. I have been working on the live-action film of The Legend of Zelda for many years now with Avi Arad-san, who has produced many mega-hit films. I have asked Avi-san to produce this film. I'm so sorry, I'm looking at the bottom of this tweet, and it's just dingity-dingus with, "Hi Miyamoto." I have asked Avi-san to produce this film with me, and we have now officially started the development of the film with Nintendo itself, heavily involved in the production. It will take time until its completion, but I hope you look forward to seeing it. One of the biggest things that I think immediately hits me when I see this tweet is Miyamoto saying that he has been working for many years, but I don't think that means that it's just saying we have now officially started the development, so they're still actually, now they're actually working down, probably starting to write script, casting, and all that stuff. Chances are we're not going to see this movie for a few years, and I'm not expecting anything like that. We just got the amazing Super Mario movie. You can watch my just unhinged video and my equally unhinged stream about me talking about the Mario movie, but I think after the Mario movie, and especially with my worry with Nintendo taking over production and, Paper Mario, just the current state of Paper Mario, I was a little concerned about how they were going to handle story, and just if there was going to be a story at all, how they were going to tackle the characters, especially with Mario where, there's not really a set story you can go for, especially when it comes for, a movie. So I'm very concerned about that, or I was. And then the Mario movie came out, and it's probably my personal favorite movie based on nothing but bias alone. So honestly, I think the worry about it being a movie in the first place is more or less gone from me. There's some questions about, with how Zelda is played. For the most part, Zelda, it can be a movie. I think, and I said this to a friend, I think you can make a Zelda movie and make it purely off of the plot of games like Ocarina of Time, A Link to the Past. Heck, I think you can make an entire movie based on the CDI games, and I think people would be just as interested, but just for a completely different way, just completely out of curiosity. Actually, you know what? If that was the case, I would kill to see one of the third CDI game, which has almost nothing to do with the game, but it did have. It's one of the only times that Zelda and the Zelda characters were actually live action. Fun fact, I just now thought about that. That's really cool. Wow. Suffice to say, I think Zelda has way more movie potential than Mario ever had, and I'm saying that as a casual, capital C, casual Zelda fan and a hardcore Mario fan. So I really think this game in general is just one of the easier ones to translate into film. And so, honestly, when it comes to Zelda, I don't have the most problems with it. It's just simply, I think just with what little information we have, and purely the one thing we know about this movie is that it's going to be live action. Now, when it comes to a live action movie, there are a lot of live action adaptations of, classic media, like pre-movie stuff, the Smurfs, the Garfield. Games specifically do not have a popular history with live-action ports. When it comes to live-action video game adaptations, I think of Monster Hunter, which I don't think anybody liked. Wait, let's see what Monster Hunter Rotten Tomatoes is. Yikes, dude, 70% audience score. Audience score thought it was okay. Interesting. I thought it was a lot lower than that. Suffice to say, I think of that, I think of the Doom movie. The one that I think of the most, because it's recent, is the Sonic movies. And I know a lot of people, again, this is coming from someone who's not a hardcore Sonic fan. The only Sonic game I've actually beaten is forces. I thought the first movie was fine until the end, when it actually was cool. I thought the rest of the movie was like fine. It's like casual, like cheesy movie schmuck, I don't know. And then the final part of the movie where Sonic actually does something, I was like, oh, that's really cool. Kind of wish that was just the whole movie, though. All of this saying, live action when it comes to video game media is not really something I see as a, historically positive thing. It's not really something that a lot of people associate with positivity, and so I feel like live action is definitely a big buzzword when it comes to a lot of people's worries about this movie, myself included, but I really do think that if they do it, there is a possibility that it can go horrifically wrong. There is easily the possibility that this thing is gonna suck ass, and I don't want it to suck ass. This is not coming from someone who wants to see this movie fail. I am a Nintendo fan, therefore I want to see this succeed. Hell, I want it to be so good that we get like an HBO Max Animal Crossing series styled like the original advertisements where they made it like a reality show. I want this movie to succeed. It's just, I really feel like only saying that it's live action is the same thing that they did with the Mario movie, saying that they're going to partner up with Illumination. Without showing actually what this movie is going to be, and until they show us what this movie is actually going to be, which is probably not for like a few years, this is going to be very anxiety-inducing, at least for me. Because as much as I know Nintendo has shown, for me personally, that, even though they might be trying something different, it goes really well. Hell, Mario Wonder, the Mario movie, all sorts of stuff. And, Breath of the Wild for the first time, like, it was completely different, and it is one of the best video games of all time, according to some people. It is very concerning for live action, because, you're gonna have your movie actors, and knowing Nintendo's history when it came to the casting of the Mario movie, they're just gonna cast celebrities, and if they're going to cast people like Chris Pratt, they're just going to be I don't know, I'm really worried that, especially with it being live action, now you have to actually make sure that the actors are good at not only talking, you have to make sure they're good at actually portraying the actual physical emotions of a character. And I don't really know who would really be good for Link. I know everyone is speculating Tom Holland because that was that huge Netflix leak that happened such a long time ago. I don't know if I can even find... There's probably a Nintendo Life article that I'll put on screen right now that shows that, but then they canceled it. So I think people are just thinking, oh, probably they're just going to move over to that and still keep Tom Holland as Link. But who knows? I genuinely don't know. For a good actor, Link is a very interesting character, and I really feel like giving Link a voice is not that hard. And it is because my favorite form of Zelda media is the Zelda manga. If you are looking for like any manga that is just like fucking awesome, check out the Legend of Zelda manga. They have done a manga on almost every mainline Zelda game, especially the 3D ones. They've done one on Link to the Past. They've done one on Ocarina of Time. They did one on 4 Swords and gave each individual Link a unique personality. They did the ones based on like Phantom Hourglass, or not Phantom Hourglass. I think they worked on it, but I remember reading the the Phantom Hourglass. I was thinking of Spirit Tracks was the one I haven't seen. They have shown that you can make a full story based on The Legend of Zelda. And I think that is the main inspiration to why I have hope for the Zelda movie, because I know that Nintendo has shown that they can give the right people the right opportunities and the right resources to make this something truly special. I just hope that it does, work. One of the big things, and one of the biggest things I wrote down when thinking about what would I want out of a Zelda movie, which we'll get to after this, I want to see the monsters. I want to see Link fight the monsters, because I feel like one of the biggest parts of Zelda is the creatures that inhabit the world. I think of like the choo-choos, I think of the little jelly guys, I think of the Keese, the bokoblins. I want to see a Moblin, I want to see a Tower Link, and I want to see Link, overcome such a giant monster. But the problem is with pacing. That is one thing that I am a bit worried about, and that's the thing. I don't know how often you can show the monsters. I don't know how often they want to show the monsters that inhabit Hyrule. All the different races, like the Zora, the Gorons, the Rito. I don't know how much they're wanting to incorporate into this first ever Zelda movie. We don't even know which Zelda game it's going to take the biggest inspiration from. Is it just going to be the first one? Is it just going to be Ocarina of Time? Is it going to be Link to the Past? Is it going to be Breath of the Wild, maybe? Who knows? And that's the biggest problem is, the Legend of Zelda also has such a wide variety of games that take very big narrative differences in just the simple sense of how wide a variety of like worlds The Legend of Zelda has taken place in. Like, I don't think they're gonna make a Zelda movie based on like Wind Waker. They're probably not gonna do that. They're probably not gonna do one on Skyward Sword. You know, I'm not saying that, but I really do think, especially, you know, if they are gonna base it on one of the bigger games, you know, the ones that are longer, pacing is gonna be such a huge problem with it. With the Mario movie, one of the biggest complaints was the pacing and how sometimes they're letting some things sink while immediately after that, like 5 things happen in 5 minutes and then you're on to the next scene like nothing happened. That's just unfortunately the problem when it comes to most movies in general. I've realized recently that, you know, I love watching movies, but I had to like remove the mentality that I have when I get, you know, when I do stuff like play a video game. I play a lot of RPGs. Those are like 50 hours long. That gives me plenty of time to invest into the characters and to invest in like the characters of the story, my teammates, my party members, the villain, all of his little lackeys, the little enemies that you fight along the way. Everything has time to sink and everything has like time to be observed. When it comes to a movie, and especially video game movies, you don't really get that. And I think that is the biggest issue, is just how they're going to pace The Legend of Zelda. You know, regardless of what game it's based on, even if it does its own thing, the biggest problem is going to be the pacing, because Zelda games normally take around, I'm gonna guess, they're like 30-ish, 40-ish hour games. Trying to condense the entire hero's journey that Link would undertake compared to like an actual Zelda game and turn that into like a 1 to 2 hour, maybe 3 hour movie is going to be very interesting. And again, with it being live action, it's not appealing to kids as much with it being live action, so is it going to be set for more mature audiences? Probably not, because a lot of Zelda fans are still children, so they're probably going to, like, it's no way is it going to be PG-13, but it's going to, there's a lot of questions. And again, without us seeing anything, unfortunately, there's nothing we can do. And so with that in mind, let's instead stop thinking about what can be based on what we know, and let's just fucking speculate. I think the best part about this period of wondering about the Zelda movie is simply just imagining what it's going to be. Now, we could always do this, but now with, you know, especially with Miyamoto coming out and personally saying that there is going to be a Zelda movie, it kind of adds to the, you know, the hype of it. Let's actually sit down and discuss, at least for me, what I would like out of a Zelda movie, and kind of like some questions regarding what does a Zelda movie even like sound like when it comes to your head. I shouldn't have spaced my words like that. So I kind of talked about this a bit in like some, you know, sprinkled in between the conversation. The biggest thing in my head when I think about the Zelda movie is, what Zelda game is it going to be based on? You know, because there's so many different worlds that can, you know, that this movie can take place in. And the big 3 that I think this movie can easily, you know, just fully be like, this is a movie based on the story of this game, maybe with some like twists and turns that didn't happen in the game, but it's more or less just this game but a movie. I think the biggest one, and probably the most likely one in my head, is Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time is one of the most influential video games of all time. Not even in terms of a Zelda game, it is just that important to so many people that genuinely you could just make an Ocarina of Time movie, and you can have like the adventures of young Link and adult Link, and you can kind of turn that into a movie where it's just young Link, he does his things, and then he turns into an adult, gets the sages, defeats Ganon, finds the princess. I feel like that one would be the easiest to turn into a movie, because it is it is like the staple of a fantasy adventure. From, you know, as a child to an adult, and then all of the adventures that Link takes, you can there are some like the manga does, you can just immediately like skip some stuff, you can like write some stuff off, and you can probably like cut the fat of a fair amount of that game, while still, with what you have left, still make a perfectly fine story, and I think it would be pretty reasonable to cut. The other one that's very obvious, I feel, is Breath of the Wild. It's very obvious, especially with Tears of the Kingdom being as popular as it is, to the point that it is in multiple game awards, but again, it was the most anticipated game last year, so that's not surprising. It's so anti-linear, and so much stuff, like, you could make just like literally the producer could just sit down, play Tears of the Kingdom or play Breath of the Wild and do his own version of like the game and be like, okay, this is what the movie's going to be based on. I'm going to base it off my playthrough. And it can still be like super unique to its own thing, I feel. And that probably doesn't make any sense, but for those who don't know, in Tears of the Kingdom and in Breath of the Wild, you can tackle the main objectives in any order or in any like means that you want. And that is one of the best parts of the game. Like, you know, one of the biggest selling points that Nintendo never really gave, but what fans would always give is, if you want, you can just go with a bunch of sticks and just just not even a shirt on your back, and you can just go and fight Ganon and beat the game. But it's gonna be like balls difficult. So, imagine, do it at your own risk, but you can do that. The game's not going to stop you. It's not going to put like an invisible wall in front of you and be like, no, no, no. That's what's so exciting about Breath of the Wild. And it's also exciting in terms of discussing a Breath of the Wild movie, because there's so much dead air that it would be genuinely interesting to see how they decide to fill up that empty air in between the 4 big objectives. Like, Link can find a character, and the character is like his new little pal, or he gets like a new little sidekick to come along with him on the way to Rito Town to Zora Town, or on the way to Zora Town to Goron Town. He has this little like side quest thing that he does, and it's a little comic relief thing. Maybe he gets his horse on his way to the first town when he meets his first stable, and he gets his horse. And that's like a little moment where like Link proves his worth as a character as he gets his first horse. There is a lot of, and it would be fine, because that is something you can do in the game, and because you can do that at any point in the game, no matter when you do it in the movie, it makes sense. It genuinely makes sense, and I think that is the best. I think that is genuinely the best part about this kind of movie. And so Breath of the Wild is genuinely the one that creatively I think would be the most exciting to do, because you can be very creative in how to pace that and what events you can do in between, because you can do anything. You can basically do anything at any time in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, and that's what makes it so special. So for a movie, genuinely, on a creative standpoint alone, I would want a Breath of the Wild movie. Genuinely, I would. The only one I could think of as an actual, you can make the plot of this game into a movie is A Link to the Past. That is also a very, very special game to a lot of people. My favorite Zelda game is A Link Between Worlds, because I never had an SNES growing up, but I had a 3DS growing up, and that game fucking rocks. Rovio, he's cool, and he's my best friend. He's my best friend. But the original story, and especially how the manga portrays it, of Link learning about his past and learning about the history of Hyrule and then going into the Dark World, I genuinely believe that they need to just look at the manga if they want to show how to condense a Zelda game into a more digestible experience. Because goddamn, one of the most memorable manga series that they ever did for Zelda was A Link to the Past. Genuinely, they sell giant versions of the books, all of the volumes into one book. Please, if you can, or if you want to pirate it, whatever, go for it. It's paper. Go check it out. Genuinely read the Link Worlds, the Link to the Past manga. It is so good. That one, personally, on a story perspective, based on what I know, I would personally, with a story that I know of, if I wanted that to be turned into a film, it would be A Link to the Past. I really think it's just a tie. I really think it's a 3-way tie, because I think all 3 of the games would all each in their own respective right be a good movie, And I'm terribly sorry, this is all jumbled thoughts, but it's all 3 of these ideas are so great, but at the same time I can imagine these being live action, and with the manga, I know for a fact that all of these different stories can work on the big screen. And genuinely, again, if you get anything out of this, you can read the Zelda manga. I am begging you on my knees. All 3 games that I mentioned, all of them in their own respective right would make an amazing movie. Ocarina of Time, you got yourself the quintessential fantasy plot, one of the most critically acclaimed games to ever exist. That is that is the movie to make. And then if you want a sequel, Majora's Mask, make it on Halloween. That would be I would watch an okay, actually, I would kill for a live action Skull Kid. That would be so cool. With A Link to the Past, again, if you read the manga, you know what I mean. But the story that can be told in that game is so amazing, and I genuinely believe that it would be such a cool movie. That was just more a personal passion fueled thing because I read the manga. And then Breath of the Wild, you can do so much with a Breath of the Wild movie. Realistically though, what I think is going to happen is they're probably going to pull a FNAF movie. And again, I never said this on like an actual video. FNAF movie, the animatronics barely do anything, but man is that movie fun if you've been there since 2015 as a FNAF fan. It's fun. And for those that say like, oh, cringe FNAF fan, don't hate the part, what is it? Don't remove the part of you that's cringe, remove the part that cringes. Because like, who cares? But how the FNAF movie did it is they pretty much just put every game into a little melting pot. And they pretty much did the same thing for the Mario movie, and so realistically that's what they're going to do for the Zelda movie. And, you know, probably they'll have Link and Zelda, and Zelda will probably have a form of Impa as like a little like guardian character that maybe Link will connect with every now and then he has to, you know, on his way to save Zelda, he'll probably do the usual Zora, Rito, and like Goron. He'll probably encounter all three of the races, he'll probably do some dungeons, he'll probably fight Ganon, and then, you know, set up for the next movie because Ganon will always come back. No, that's FNAF. Ganon will always return. Chances are that's most likely what it's gonna be. But man, if they really do a Zelda movie based on a specific game, all three of those would be really cool. And, you know, I think all three of those ideas, and I think, you know, with Zelda, with it being its own like melting pot, it's kind of like the same idea with why I would like a Breath of the Wild movie, is simply because I really think with the pure amount of stuff that you have in the Zelda universe, even if you do your own thing, you have a pretty damn like deep well of things to pull. You can do some like deep references, you can have Link fight some like shadow ghosts like he did in, what is it, Twilight Princess, and that's how he learns to be a better knight throughout the game. You know, I think there's like a lot of potential, regardless on if it's based on a game, which unfortunately it probably isn't. I would kill if it is. I'd kill a man. But, you know, I really think that even if they don't, I really am excited to see how they do it, because again, they did it for the Mario movie. I think Nintendo with the Mario, I think, you know, another like big point that I want to make in this video is I really do think that with how well they did the Mario movie, in a sense of that game never really has a consistent plot, and trying to make a movie out of that was a pretty good task. You know, some people disagree with how well it was, you know, done. But I still think, you know, just the simple fact that they were able to make a movie out of Mario is pretty damn impressive. I feel like Zelda's an easy win. You know, I feel like Zelda's a very easy shot. It's a very easy basket. It's like a giant-ass basket, and you got yourself a tiny little ball. It's pretty easy to flick that thing into the giant-ass net, you know? Yeah, live action, it's, you know, like, what are the monsters gonna look like? What are things gonna look like? Is this gonna be Disney? Or is this gonna be, like, Transformer, Starscream, Ganon. No, but you know what I mean, where it's like the CGI genuinely is impressive. I just can't think of another movie. Or is it Jurassic Park? I think as long as they nail the creature designs and it doesn't look too uncanny, which if Nintendo's doing it, they have shown they're probably not gonna f it up, probably. Fingers crossed. We think they have like the easiest shots, but then they just do something completely different. Hopefully for the better. Just overall, I think that, you know, the live action idea, and regardless on if they do anything based on, you know, if they do it based on a game, not based on a game, or based on, you know, references on multiple games, however it is, I really think the Zelda movie has a lot of opportunity. As long as they do it in a very creative and unique way, I think that's all I care about. I don't care if it's really like sticking like tightly to the source material, because it's kind of hard to do that when you can only make a movie for like 1 or 2 hours compared to the multiple hours that normally you get to see a Zelda story go through. So they have to take a lot of creative liberties, but as long as they can take those creative liberties while still, you know, doing the things that make Zelda Zelda, then I don't see any problem with it being live action. I don't see any problem with it being a movie in the first place. I'm just excited. Zelda has done so many things, and it has done so many things very well. It has done games where there is practically no story at all, and you basically just get to do whatever you want. It has done games where it puts you on like the quintessential fantasy adventure, exploring different lands, meeting different people, getting different things to do the different things, and fighting the big bad. And sometimes it does the most cryptic, horrifying shit that you've ever seen. You have 3 days left, you have to hurry, the moon's gonna fall, we're gonna die! Because of that wide variety of stuff that they've done, The idea of what they can put on the big screen is so wide and vast, and they can take so many creative liberties, especially with it being live action. Seeing all that stuff be real? That's exciting. And genuinely, even as a casual Zelda fan, I think that is what makes it so exciting. But, you know, with excitement and with little to no news comes concerns. And, you know, at the very least, there's so many ideas that can be had, but at the end of the day, I just want to say that at the very least, I have some confidence after the Mario movie. If Nintendo could somehow tame the Illumination Beast, something tells me that there is a pretty good chance that this Zelda movie is going to be just fine. At least I hope so. You know what? If the Zelda movie sucks, at least we can just make our characters in Miitopia switch and then just make a better movie, I guess. So hey, at least there's that.